and welcome to metallics.co.nz. My name is Alex Telford, and today we're going to be learning about Ajax. Now, if you don't know what that is, Ajax is a way of using JavaScript to call another page within that page, in web design, of course. So if you don't know how to use JavaScript, I do have a JavaScript introduction series on this website. Even if you don't know HTML, you need to know HTML as well. You'd like to check out that one as well, also on my website. Plus, one other thing, if you haven't checked out my JavaScript series, but you do know JavaScript, make sure you check out part 10, wherever it is. There we go, part 10, where we cover object-oriented programming. Now, it's not necessary, but it will help for understanding this tutorial. Okay, I'm going to switch into Dreamweaver now. Now remember, you guys don't need to use Dreamweaver, you can use anything you like. This is the one I'll be using. Now I have set up a little script here, which is what we're going to be making today. And all it does is basically, when I type in here, it'll make a nice little search for whatever we want. And if we keep typing, it will refine the search to however we want. There we go. Now, I will remind you that if you are using Dreamweaver, it is a little slow to processing Ajax, but it's not like that on websites. It does run a lot faster. Okay, so here's what this is the code we're going to be making, and for those of you who are wondering where the info is coming from, I have another page, which is a PHP dynamic page, which has a simple array of stuff in there. If you don't know, if you don't understand PHP, I will have a PHP tutorial coming up soon, hopefully within the next week. Otherwise, I would recommend you go to w3schools.com. In fact, even if you want to advance your Ajax techniques, I would recommend you go to w3schools.com. They do have amazing tutorials on there, but they are a little boring, hence why I do video tutorials. Much better, isn't it? Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of all of this, and press enter. There we go, and get rid of those as well. Take off live view. There we go. There we go. Sorted. Alright, so how does Ajax work? Well, Ajax is not the most simplest of things, but I think the best way for me to explain it is to build it while I build it and explain every step along the way. So first of all, you've got to set up your JavaScript tags. So script type is text JavaScript as usual, and close it down there. And of course there we go, the little comment tags for those older browsers that don't know how to process JavaScript, just to make sure that no one gets stuffed up. Purely optional, of course. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new function, and this function is going to be called getContent, and I'll put strong string in there. Now you can put whatever you want. I put string because it's just force of habit, I suppose. Okay, so this is where our function is going to be. Now I'm going to create our little table down here. I'm going to write search for something. Yeah, there we go. Create an input. Now this is just basic HTML, so I'm assuming you guys understand this. If not, make sure you check out the tutorial on my website. Input type equals text. ID can be text field. Don't really need an ID for this one. And underneath this we'll have div ID is going to be, what should we call this? We'll call this results. Nice and simple. Okay, so now what we've got over here is we have just a little text box we can type into, and it's not going to do anything at the moment because we haven't got any JavaScript calling in there, but we'll get to that shortly. Actually, we'll get to that right now. We're going to go and on key up. Now, the reason we're doing on key up and not on change is because we want it to reload the content every time the person takes the key up from it. So when they're finished pressing that letter, if they're holding down a letter, then take it off, then it will search for all those letters. Whereas if it's on key down, it will search for it once and then it will keep searching for it. On change, for some reason on change always screws up when you're working with Ajax, or not always, but quite often it can screw up and it can crash the computer and it's really annoying, so don't use on change, use on key up. Alright, there's my little rant for the day. Nah, I'm bound to have another one soon. So what we're going to do is we're going to call the get contents. We're going to put this dot value. Now for those of you who don't know, when you're creating a JavaScript function within an element, you can use this to refer to this element. So this at the moment is referring to this input box here, and we want to take whatever the value is at the time of the key coming up. Nice and easy. So that's pretty straightforward. So now we need to get onto the Ajax. So I'm going to set a new variable. I'm going to call this Ajax. You can call it whatever you like, but I like to call it Ajax. Most people like to call it XML HTTP, which I find very confusing when you're working with XML HTTP requests. So I'm going to stick with Ajax because it works a lot better. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go if string dot length equals 0. Now what we're doing here is if the string length of this box is 0, so if we haven't typed anything in or we've just deleted everything, we want to make sure that there's nothing in this results div. So that way when we delete something, it's going to clear out the results rather than just adding to it or whatever. Much easier. So document dot get element by ID, and ID of my div. Wait, no, not my div, results. And then we're going to go dot inner HTML equals nothing. Sweet. You probably noticed in JavaScript that you have return on these. Just remembering to put that in. You don't really need it. It doesn't do a lot if you're not returning anything. Quite often you'll have return this variable or whatever, but apparently it's good for your topology of your website. Moving on, we're going to do one more thing here, one more statement. Actually, no, we've got two more statements. If window dot XML HTTP request. Now this is probably looking very confusing for you. What this is we have, if you look at these notes, I forgot to tell you at the start, but make sure you grab the resource files for this and print them out. These are free. You don't have to. Actually, yes, you do have to log in to download these, but they're free of charge. So just make sure you download those and print them out. Follow along. So, what the XML HTTP request is, it's the way that most browsers use Ajax. So what we want to do is we want to ask the browser, so we're asking window, if it understands XML HTTP request. So if that returns true, it will process whatever's in here. Else, it will process whatever's in here. So in other words, Internet Explorer 5 and 6 is going to process this stuff because Internet Explorer sucks. And every other browser is going to process this one up here. moving on, what we need to do now is, oh no, my computer yelling at me. Okay, so what we want to put in here is we want to go Ajax equals new, because we're going to create a new object, and we're going to make a new XML HTTP HTTP request. There we go. So what this is doing is this is going to grab our Ajax variable and it's going to create a new object. So if you don't know, an object is like a fancy array, and it's going to create, in that object it's going to be a XML HTTP request. So the reason it's called that is XML is how Ajax used to work when it first came out, is it would only really do XML. For those of you who don't know what XML is, it could be helpful to Google it because it's very hard to explain right now very quickly, but basically it's like a little table of info. It's like a really weirdly formatted way of doing data. It's really good for text messages and stuff, but I don't think I've ever used it for anything else. Usually I just use PHP, much easier. Okay, so that's that one there. Now if it's not Internet Explorer 7 or above, or Chrome, or Firefox or whatever, I think even Netscape uses XML HTTP request. So if it's not, we're going to go Ajax equals new ActiveX object. I've got the hiccups tonight. Really annoying. Soft dot. Sorry if I'm having a bit of a memory lapse here. It's a lot to remember. Usually you just copy and paste when you're making all this stuff. But yeah, I'm being nice and typing it all out for you. So this is, don't ask me too much about ActiveX objects. I don't use them very often, but that is what Internet Explorer 5 and 6 use. So they use ActiveX object. Kind of what an ActiveX object is, something that you can download from the internet, and it will store it onto your computer, and then it will remember your preferences for later. That's sort of like that's what ActiveX sort of is. And then the one we're going to be calling, so we're going to create a new create an ActiveX object, and the ActiveX object we're trying to call is going to be the Microsoft category, and it's going to be XML HTTP. Sweet. So that's it. That's how you call it. Moving on, we need to do something else there. Ajax dot on ready state change. Oops, equals function, and we're going to do this. Alright, so what on ready state change is on ready state change, golly, having a bit of a mind blank here, sorry about this. Anyways, what on ready state change is every time the ready state changes, it will execute this function. So the ready state is basically every time that tries to make a request. I've got this in the notes somewhere. Oh, where's my notes? Over here. Okay, so up the top, I believe. Yep. So you can see on ready state change, activated every time the ready state changes. This goes as 0 is request hasn't started yet. 1, connection to the server is set, so it's established its connection, and I need an E in there. 2, request has been received, so the server has received the request. 3 is processing the request, so it's come back, it's processing. 4, it's processed, it's all ready, and you can process on from it, you can keep going. And we also have the status, which I'm going to get to shortly, but I might as well tell you now. 200 is good, 404 is the file could not be found. Moving on. What we need to do now is we need to go if Ajax dot ready states equals 4. Yes, 4 because we want to check it if the ready state is equal to 4. So every time it runs this function, it's going to go, this is equal to 0, this equals 1, this equals 2, this equals 3, this equals 4, and then it can process. So we'll go, and we're going to go Ajax dot status equals 200. Because it's an integer, I don't need those. Alright, so it's going to process through, it's going to check that, yep, it's ready and it has found the document. Then it can process through, and now we can go document dot get element by, get element by ID of results dot inner HTML equals Ajax dot response text, I believe it is. Dot text? No, it's capital text. Yes. In HTML equals Ajax dot response text. Sorry if I'm wrong about that one. We can come back at later otherwise. So so what we're doing here is we're going document.get element of the ID of results, which is this ID down here, and we're going to change the inner HTML to whatever the response text was of the Ajax. So we did that up here somewhere. Actually no, we're going to do that in the next line, because when you set the Ajax to the XML HTTP request, you get a whole bunch of different object parameters that you can assign to it. When it comes back from the server and it's returned with 200 status and the ready state of 4, it assigns a response text object parameter to your Ajax object. Gosh, this sounds confusing. Hope I'm not confusing anyone out there. But if I am, feel free to leave some messages, jump on the forums or whatever, and there'll be some help there. Alright, so we need to do something else. We need to actually execute this Ajax. So the way we're going to do that is going to go Ajax dot open, and we're going to go get. So the way this works is this goes method, file, and asynchronous. So method is get or post. Get is faster than post. You will use post occasionally, but while you're starting out with Ajax, just use get. It's much easier. And the file is going to be content.php search equals plus string comma true. Alright, now I need to explain this line, don't I? So what we're going to do is we're going to use a method of get. We're going to get content.php, which is this one up here, and we are going to go to we're going to assign a search parameter of, so we're going to go we're going to assign a variable equal to string. So whatever that string was, this dot value, that's what the search is going to be. So when it comes in here, we can check if there is no variable search, it's not going to process. But if there is a search, it's going to search through here, find everyone that starts with that search. This is a really simple source code. It will be included in the source files. Don't worry if you don't understand this. I should probably actually simplify it a little for you, but Anyways, don't worry, check out the PHP tutorials which are going to be up online soon. Otherwise, check out the forums on DannyWeb. is a great place which has a lot of info on this sort of stuff. Okay, so we've assigned that along there. Now asynchronous is true. What asynchronous is whether it will keep processing the Ajax. So whether it's going to keep processing this function while it's... Wait, I've got this wrong way around. Asynchronous, if that equals true, it's going to keep processing your page while this is running. So while this is running here, it's going to keep processing other JavaScript. It's going to keep running the page as normal until this comes back with true. If it's... You can set it to false if you know it's going to be true really quickly, but I would suggest setting it to true. It's much better, and you have no real reason to set it to false, as far as I know. Okay, so we need to one more ajax.send, and that's it. So what we're doing here is we're going to send that request. So you can see as it comes through here, so it's setting it. It's going to set the Ajax, and if the string is, it's going to determine if the string is empty. And then it's going to check whether it's Internet Explorer 5 or 6 or every other browser, and then of course it's going to keep running this one here until it comes back with 4. So every time it changes, so it'll run it 4 times this function here, this group I should say. And of course we're going then once all that's done, it's going to open the connection. Actually, it's going to open the connection while it's doing this, so this will come through as 0, then it will open the connection, send it, and then of course keep going through until it figures itself out, comes back with 4, whatever. Okay, so let's try this out. I need to go into live view here with Dreamweaver, putting the file to the server, loading, there we go. Let's search for A, and it's not popping up with anything. Let's see, yep, here we go. Let's try this. You know, there's probably someone out there who looked at me typing that in and was like, dude, you spelled it wrong. Try that again, A. Right, S. Oh, still connecting to the server apparently. There we go. Yes, comes out with a whole bunch of stuff. SHO, there we go. So that was a problem. Make sure you spell these right, same as if you need to make sure you spell all of that right as going through it. This is why you don't type this out normally, because you usually make a spelling mistake somewhere. Even us guys that have been doing this for years. Anyway, so you can see that that's how it works. Make sure you download the source files. Check out this one here as well. If you got any problems, let me know. Hopefully I've made this simple and easy to understand. But pretty much it's a good idea to make this once, and then after that just basically you don't need to make it again. Just copy and paste it into every one of your websites, because this code here, this function, will never change. You'll probably set, instead of Ajax, it will have, I think I've got in my notes actually, nope, I used Ajax in my notes as well. You will see a lot of them use XML HTTP request and XML HTTP instead of Ajax. But I find when you have something like, for example, if I type it in here, XML HTTP equals XML HTTP request, when you're learning, that looks confusing. I mean, seriously, you think that one there is actually part of a function, it has to be called XML HTTP or whatever, but you can just call it whatever you want, of course. So that is it. That's all for this tutorial today. Hopefully you learned something, and remember to check out my page, check out the Facebook. I post a lot of my updates on the Facebook. And yeah, stay tuned for the next tutorial. My name is Alex Telford and you are on metallics.co.nz.